Alrighty, so this video would be part 2 of me talking about why Chris Murphy is an idiot for thinking that $25 an hour is a viable minimum wage. Whether it's state or federal level, it's both absolutely insane. So in part 1, I kind of just did like an overview, talked about him, kind of made jokes about him in general, talked about this tweet here in general, and then that's where it ended. So let's just get into the points now as to why this is a really dumb idea. To start, minimum wage going up to $25 an hour would basically kill a lot of small businesses. And if it doesn't kill them, then it would severely impact them. Think about it this way. Let's say you're a small business and you hire, I don't know, 1 or 2 employees, just so that then maybe you can have the weekends off, or you have somebody there with you while you're working so that you can focus on, doing whatever you got to do behind the scenes, whether it's sourcing more product to sell, or trying to get with more vendors, or just trying to set your shop up to look nice and presentable, or whatever it might be, even if it's just paperwork and you got to be in the office. So you have 1 employee who can run the register and maybe, keep the place clean and tidy and what have you. Well, right now, if you're going by federal minimum wage, you're only paying them 7 something an hour. And if it's by Connecticut standards, okay, well, it's $16.94. Kind of a lot, but it's something that you can handle right now. You have your 2 employees, so you're doing fine. But now let's say minimum wage goes to $25 an hour. Well, if it's on the federal level, basically minimum wage just increased by 3 times, which means you had 2 employees, and maybe that's all you could afford. Now it's like you have to pay for the equivalency of 6 employees. And this happens overnight. If this crap passes, it's just an immediate boop. You go from paying 7 whatever an hour to your 2 employees, so like $14 an hour equivalency or whatever. Let's say 15, round up. $15 an hour equivalency for your 2 employees to now $50 an hour equivalency for your 2 employees. That's going to be ridiculous. If you're a small business and maybe you have a niche product that you sell, a niche market that you cater to or whatever, maybe you only pull in, let's say $300,000 a year, and that's just everything. So then you got to pay for your electricity and the rent and the blah, blah, blah. So then say you only have half of that left as profit. Then you got to pay your employees, and you're trying to pay yourself a little, and have money left for the business as well, so then you can help it grow. Like, you're spread real thin now. So now you either have to lay an employee off, and now it becomes a little tighter because now it's just you and the 1 employee. Maybe you got to cut your employees' hours down. Maybe before they were able to both have 40 hours, but now because minimum wage is so astronomical, maybe now they can only work 30 hours each, 25 hours each or something. So now they're getting shafted. Sure, hourly wage is much higher, but they're getting less hours. I mean, I guess it would balance out. You know what I mean? Minimum wage, if it's federal, it's 3 times as much now. So if you're working half as much, you're actually making out and still making more money. But you know what I mean? Like, your hours are cut. So your overall potential, even though it's skyrocketed by 3 times, you're not really achieving that. You're almost breaking even because you have less hours. Or the person just lets go of both their employees, and now they have to rework their business. Either they got to work every day and never be able to enjoy life and have a day off, or they need to figure out a day or two when they can just close their business so they can have a day off, or have reduced hours. Maybe instead of being open all day on a Monday, they close at noon or something. Either way, it's affecting their business. They can't be open as long as they would like to, which now means that they're not making money. If they have to close at noon, say they normally stay open until 6, well, that's 6 hours that you're not having any business at all. And it's all because this dickhead thought, hey, $25 an hour makes sense. We should be paying our people that. No. It's going to massively affect people just trying to make it on their own. Yeah, if you're really, really small, then you probably just work for yourself. No big deal. No change there. But if you're big enough to need an employee or 2, it's going to hurt you. So that's reason number 1 why this is stupid. Reason number 2 is, think about the places that are minimum wage jobs, okay? McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, gas station tenant, etc. These jobs are places that sell a product that a lot of people are trying to enjoy. I'm trying to think the best way to phrase this. What I mean is, let's say you go to McDonald's. It's fast food. The whole point of why you go there is, you want something quick that's going to taste good and not cost too much. And that's the whole point. You go to McDonald's, you go in the drive-thru. In theory, you should be in and out 5 minutes tops, But what'll happen is all of that could change once everything goes to $25 an hour, because you think that a place like McDonald's, let's say, is going to want to lose any profit. If they got to start paying their employees $25 an hour, that means their labor is insanely high. I mean, think about how many employees they have. When I used to work there, I worked there from basically all my college days. And then I worked there as a second job once I got into my industry, because, entry level, you're not making too much money. So I worked at McDonald's for a couple of years even after I started in my industry. So overall, I have 8 years that I worked at McDonald's. And I think at our peak, we had like 88 regular employees, plus there was like 10 managers between all the shifts. So you're looking at 98 employees total. Now, when I worked there, I was a manager, but minimum wage was like $8.25 an hour. So I was making $9.10 an hour as a manager, almost $1 more than the regular employees. And yeah, wasn't that much. But now you're saying $25 an hour? So these people would basically be making more than double what I made, almost 3 times as much as what I made as a manager, just to be a regular crew person, which means, you have, let's say they still have 98 employees total at a McDonald's. That's going to skyrocket their payroll costs. So now what happens? Either A, they lay off a ton of people because they're like, whoa, we can't afford this. Which means now the people that do still have a job are being way overworked. They're also going to be short-staffed all the time. So now, that 5-minute, in theory, drive-through time becomes like 15, 20 minutes. Because instead of having enough people on staff, you're kind of real thin. Now instead of having somebody in back booth to take orders and money, and somebody at the window to hand out the food, and somebody up front to run and push the food to the drive-through window, bag it up and everything, and having someone else who can take orders on lane 2, all of a sudden now that becomes all one position. You have the person doing drive-through doing lane 1 and 2 and taking the money at the second window and handing the food out at the second window and bagging their own food. And sure, that's what you do at night when it's like 10 at night. But during lunch rush, that ain't gonna work. But if we gotta pay $25 an hour, or not we, but McDonald's has to pay $25 an hour, as well as everywhere else, Burger King, Wendy's, etc., it's just not feasible. That's not gonna fly. That's not gonna work. So now you think putting $25 an hour sounds good. Ooh, these people are making so much more money. Yet, how many people just lost their job because it's not viable for McDonald's to keep them employed? Half the staff maybe loses their job because it's not viable. Or, just like in the scenario with the small business owner, everybody gets drastic cuts to their hours. So they were working 40 hours a week. Now they're working 20 hours a week, 10 hours a week. So they're like super part-time. And even though minimum wage is much higher, they're just basically breaking even because they're making $25 an hour for 10 hours. So their take-home's $250 minus taxes. Where before, when it was $16 an hour and they're working 40 hours a week, round that up to 20, that's $800. So they would have been making much more at the current minimum wage than they would at this new minimum wage. Sure, the base number is higher, but they're making much less because it's not feasible for McDonald's or Burger King, whatever, to keep these people working full time. Additionally, there's the aspect of the prices of these places. As we all know, McDonald's prices suck nowadays. They used to be good. They had $1 menu, drinks were $1, any drink, any size. Now their prices are garbage. I mean, McDoubles. McDoubles were invented while I worked at McDonald's. They were invented to be a sandwich on the $1 menu. Now a McDouble is what? $2.99 as part of their 3 and under deal? And that's with current rates. Now, if we're talking Connecticut minimum wage going up 50% to be $25 an hour, then what happens to the McDouble? Does that go up 50% too? So now that $3 sandwich that was invented to be $1 is now a $4.50 sandwich? Like, having sky-high prices, minimum wage, is not going to benefit anything. All it does instead is it's going to make everything cost more, and now everybody's in that same pool. Instead of just minimum wage people struggling, everybody is going to struggle.